Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from 3rd canto, 25th chapter, verses 12 to 25. And an emphasis on subject. So we can go down. Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her in himself for her questions, and thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization.
The personality of Godhead answered, the yoga system which relates to the Lord and the individual soul, which is meant for the ultimate benefit of the living entity, and which causes detachment from all happiness and distress in the material world, is the highest yoga system.
O most pious mother, I shall now explain unto you the ancient yoga system, which I explained formerly to the great sages. It is serviceable and practical in every way.
Stage in which the consciousness of the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature is called conditional life. But when that same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation.
When one is completely cleansed of the impurities of lust and greed, produced from the false identification of the body as I, the bodily possessions as mine, one's mind becomes purified. In that pure state, he transcends the stage of so-called material happiness and distress.
At that time, the soul can see himself to be transcendental to material existence and always self-effulgent, never fragmented, although very minute.
In that position of self-realization, by practice of knowledge and renunciation in devotional service, one sees everything in the right perspective. He becomes indifferent to material existence, and the material influence acts less powerfully upon him.
Perfection in self-realization cannot be attained by any kind of yogi unless he engages in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for that is the only auspicious path.
Every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the split soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the doors of liberation.
The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime.
Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation. For the sake of the Lord, he renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world.
Should we go back to 20 or? Oh.
Engage constantly in chanting and hearing about me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sadhus do not suffer from material miseries because they are always filled with thoughts of my pastimes and activities.
O my mother, O virtuous lady, these are the qualities of great devotees who are free from all attachment. You must seek attachment to such holy men, for this counteracts the pernicious effects of material attachment.
In the association of pure devotees, discussion of the pastime and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to the ear and the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed, and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotional services begin.
Go back to 20. Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanaha kavayo sa eva sadhu sukto mokshadvaram apavritam
Sangam Hajaram Pasham Arsana Arjaman Asham Avayo Sai Pasadu Chadwaram Aparvatam
Let's read the word code. Prasangam, attachment. Ajaram, strong. Pasham, entangled. Atmana, of the soul. Kavaya, learned men. Vidu, no. Saeva, that same. Sadhusu, to the devotees. Vitaha, apply. Mokshadvaram, door of liberation. Avavritam, every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. Purport. Here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in conditioned life, and the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. Attachment cannot be killed. It has simply to be transferred. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness, and attachment for Krishna or his devotees is called Krishna consciousness. Consciousness, therefore, is the platform of attachment. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation. Despite the statement that one should give up attachment, desirelessness is not possible for a living entity. A living entity by constitution has the propensity to be attached to something. We see that if someone has no object of attachment, he has no children, then he transfers his attachment to cats and dogs. This indicates that the propensity for attachment cannot be stopped. It must be utilized for the best purpose. Our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditional state, but that same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation. Here it is recommended that attachment should be transferred to self-realized devotees, the sadhus. And who is a sadhu? A sadhu is not just an ordinary man with a saffron robe or a long beard. A sadhu is described in the Bhagavad Gita as one who unflinchingly engages in devotional service. Even though one is found not to be following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service, if one simply has unflinching faith in Krishna, the Supreme Person, he is understood to be a sadhu. Sadhur eva sa mantavya. A sadhu is a strict follower of devotional service. It is recommended here that if one at all wants to realize Brahman or spiritual perfection, his attachment should be transferred to the sadhu or devotee. Lord Chaitanya also confirmed this. Lavamatra sadhusange sarva siddhi hai. Simply by a moment's association with the sadhu, one can attain perfection. Mahatma is a synonym of sadhu. It is said that service to a Mahatma or elevated devotee of the Lord is Dwaram Ahur Vimuktehe, the royal road of liberation. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes Tamo Dwaram Yoshitam Shangi Shangam. Rendering service to the materialists has the opposite effect. If anyone offers service to a gross materialist or a person engaged only in sense enjoyment, then by association with such a person, the door to hell is opened. The same principle is confirmed here. Attachment to a devotee is attachment to the service of the Lord, because if one associates with a sadhu, the result will be that the sadhu will teach him how to become a devotee, a worshipper, and a sincere servitor of the Lord. These are the gifts of a sadhu. If you want to associate with a sadhu, we cannot expect him to give us instructions on how to improve our material condition, but he will give us instruction on how to cut the knot of contamination of material attraction and how to elevate ourselves in devotional service. That is the result of associating with a sadhu. Kapila Muni first of all instructs that the path of liberation begins with such association. The third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the most dense, but I'll try to speak briefly on this section and this purport, and then just open up the floor for conversation. What we are going to do today to understand what is going on between Kapil Muni and Devahuti, we have to understand the context in which all of this conversation is happening. The context is critical. And here is the context. The earliest layer of all Shastras are the four Vedas. The four Vedas are Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. Have you heard of the English word video? Video. Video means to see. Vid, wit, intelligence. Vidya. Have you heard of the word Vidya? What is Vidya? Do you see the sound similarity? Video, Vidya, wit, Veda. And have you heard of an ant? Little ant. Antenna. You heard of an antenna? Anterior. You know what the word anterior means? Right? So, Veda Anta is the end of Veda or seeing. So, after Vedas come Vedanta. End of Veda means knowledge, and Vedanta means end of all knowledge. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is an expansion of Vedanta. Clear so far? There are 5 other schools of knowledge in the ancient world. Veda is called Mimamsa. And Mimamsa means ritual. Like, you do your yajna, you give charity, you hold on to all the rites and rituals. That's Mimamsa. Along with Mimamsa, you get Vedanta, philosophy. There are two more pair schools like that, Sankhya and Yoga. The word sam means to count, right? Samkhya. Samkhya means to count or to enumerate. To understand reality in 24 categories as Prakriti, five senses, five say actions of Karmendriya, Gyanendriya, and so on and so forth. And yoga means the practical application of knowledge. Similarly, there is Nyaya, logic, and Vaisheshika. Vaisheshika is the idea that everything is made of atoms and particles. Right? So these 6 schools of philosophy accept the Vedas. There are other schools of philosophy that don't accept the Vedas in ancient India. First is Charvaka. Charvaka says, Rinam Kritva Gritam Pivet. That beg, steal, borrow, you must enjoy today. Have you heard of that philosophy? Even if you have to get into debt, make sure you have the best ghee today. Rinam means debt, and Grita means ghee. Get debt, but drink ghee. Similarly, there is Buddhism. Buddhism doesn't accept the validity of the Vedas, and neither does other schools such as Nirashwaravadins. There are smaller schools that come up that doesn't really belong somewhere, but they say that we don't accept the Vedas, we don't accept God either. So there are a lot of permutations and combinations in ancient world. The Srimad Bhagavatam is a book that is able to harmonize various conflicting ideologies. Right? It is a commentary on Vedanta. It teaches yoga with the help of Sankhya. Original Kapila in the Indian philosophical tradition is not a theist, but the Kapila Muni of Srimad Bhagavatam is an avowed theist. And in this context, what he is doing is, out of all the philosophies, he is taking that one philosophy called yoga. And he is explaining that philosophy in a devotional way to his mother. And here is the essence of this particular section of the Bhagavatam. That, this section says that when you are in love, you will see the object of your love, your beloved, in mundane, ordinary things. Think about it. Have you seen the movie Titanic that came out years back? Jack and Rose. There can be hundreds of Jacks and hundreds of Roses in America. But when Jack falls in love with Rose, that name Rose becomes special. When Rose falls in love with Jack, how many Jacks are there? In English history in the world today. For that particular Jack is special. She will keep repeating Jack, 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 Jack like that. Exactly. I never let go, Jack. And that is the way we need to be chanting the holy names. It is like the name of our divine beloved. When that attachment happens, that connection happens, that connection is called yoga. In traditional yoga, there are 8 limbs. How many limbs do you have? Arms, head, chest, stomach, 2 legs, feet. In Ayurveda, the system of medicine, the human body is said to have 8 limbs. And the process of yoga by which you attain the Lord is also supposed to have 8 limbs. Right? And so today what I'll do is I will approach the Srimad Bhagavatam from the perspective of the Yoga Sutras. Right? So every school of philosophy has their own sutras. So Vedanta has Vedanta Sutras, Nyaya has Nyaya Sutras, Vyakarana has Vyakarana Sutras. Vyakarana means grammar. Yoga has Yoga Sutras. In Yoga Sutras, Patanjali Muni, the composer, says, Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is pausing the various fluctuations of one's mind, intelligence, and ego. Right? So at any given moment, your body may be in this room, but your mind is going, okay, what's here for breakfast today? Right? So the mind keeps going and floating around. Then the intelligence goes, if it is again carb and carb and carb, I'm not getting enough vegetables. So the intelligence keeps thinking, I know the mind is attracted to something, but the intelligence says whether it is good or bad. And identity is what we imagine ourselves to be. Indian, male, 42, however, professor. Whatever you imagine yourself to be is your ego. And your imagination of yourself keeps changing based on circumstance. Right? So when you walk into the classroom, you're a student. When you walk out of the classroom, you're a hero. When you're distributing books, you're a hustler. When you come back to the ashram, you're an ashramite. So your identity keeps changing based on the circumstance you find yourself in. In this way, our mind, intelligence, and identity, manas, buddhi, ahankar, constantly changing. These changes are called vrittis. Right? Like, have you heard of the English word subvert, invert, convert? Do you hear the vert? The vert in English is vritti in Sanskrit. The mind is constantly pervert, revert, convert, subvert, invert. It's going like that. And yoga is pausing that constant cycles of the mind. Tada drashtuhu swarupya avasthanam. Then the real you, you are able to pause that mind, that noise. When the noise dies down, then you are able to hear the sound. Make sense? You realize who you are, Swarupe. And what is Swarupa? Our books say, Jiva Swarupa hai Krishna Nityadas, that our true identity is to be a servant of the most attractive. Just natural. Vrittir Swarupya Itaratra. If you don't do this, then what happens? You identify with and become one with the madness of your mind. When you don't control your mind, you become one with the madness of your mind. Then your mind tells you, let's go watch this movie the night before exams. Even if you don't have any preparation, you're a superhero, you'll make it. Right? The mind talks like that. And the intelligence says, no. You just have 7 hours to go. Tomorrow morning you have an exam, go study. And the mind will say no. And this is best represented, I think, in Tom and Jerry cartoons. Have you seen this? Tom has this red cat and the white cat, and the red cat says, go kill Jerry. And the white cat says, no. Jerry is such a cute little rat. And in this way, these two rats are, the two Toms are constantly speaking. And so it is in our head. Yoga is pausing that. And how do you pause that? The 8 steps, the 8 angas are yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Okay? And I'll just briefly say one sentence on each and then stop and open the floor up for conversation. Yama, the word yama means death and also means rules at the same time. These are the ground rules. Like, if you play soccer or football or hockey, there has to be some ground rules, right? You cannot play without ground rules. And so if you have to play in the world of transcendence, there are some ground rules. And there are 5 yamas. Out of the 5, 4 are our regulative principles. Tapa, Saucha, Ishwar Pranidhana, Satya, and Brahmachari. These are the 5 yamas. Then niyamas are Santosa, in satisfaction. Tapa, Saucha, Swadhyaya. Saucha means cleanliness. Swadhyaya means self-study, right? And Ishvara Pranidhana. So there are 5 yamas and 5 niyamas. These are the rules of the game, 10 rules. Once you follow those, then comes asana. Now, asana in America is done in studios where they do the downward dog pose and the upward dog pose and the camel pose and this pose and the crane pose, and everybody's trying to do it because they need a sexy body for summer. But asana essentially means to be able to sit down. It's as simple as that. All those fancy poses, they have their commercial value. They also have some physical value because, if you're going to sit down for long hours, you want to make sure your back is not hurting. But asana, as Blaise Pascal, Blaise Pascal, that Western thinking mathematician, says, the most difficult thing a human being can do is sit quietly with herself or himself in a room. Just sit down quietly by yourself and see something starts happening, dishum dishum in your head. In Bollywood, dishum dishum means some fighting is going on. Okay? So that's asana, to be able to sit down. To sit down to chant your japa is actually asana. To sit down to hear Bhagavata is asana. Once you have done asana, then the 4th stage is pranayama. Prana means life air, breath. And yama means to extenuate, stretch. So to elongate your life is pranayama. Another translation of pranayama is bios. Prana is bio. And ayama is stretching and relaxing. So relaxing your breath. Bio relaxation is pranayama. Right? And Sanatana Goswami says in his Hari Bhakti Vilas that if you are serious about chanting, you will first regulate your breath. Haridas Thakur is to chant in 3 ways. One, he is to chant aloud. Second, he is to chant in whispers. Third, he is to chant with his breath, silently. So he's breathing in Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And you hold it, breathe out Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Right? Hare Krishna, Krishna. Don't chant, just listen here. In your mind, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. You see, it's a very relaxing exercise. So that's pranayama. Pratyahara means to withdraw your senses. Our senses can be like either salt or fire. Right? And remember this metaphor. What does salt do? It enhances the flavor of your food. If there is no salt in the food today in breakfast, will you be upset? At least a little bit. There is no salt. No. What's the point? If there is too much salt, can you eat it? Similarly, sense enjoyment has to be like salt in food. If we have no sense enjoyment, life is bland. If you have too much sense enjoyment, it's like too much salt in food. Balanced. Krishna therefore says, Yukta ahara vihara. In your entertainment, in your eating, you have to be yukta, balanced, like salt in food. And how do we have that salt? As prasad, as sangha, singing, dancing. This is, balanced enjoyment. And our senses are like fire. Why? Because whatever you put into the fire, it will come out. If you put plastic in fire, what will happen? Produce toxic fumes. If you put incense in the fire, if you put ghee in the fire, what will happen? Purifying fumes. Fire, the same thing. Whatever you put in, it will give it back to you. In one way or another. So our senses, whatever you put into your senses, will decide what your mind puts out. Right? That's pratyahara. So Krishna says pratyahara is becoming like a tortoise, a salt, fire, and tortoise. Krishna says like a tortoise, when it realizes that it needs to withdraw, it withdraws its limbs inside the shell. Then it brings out whenever it wants. to have that kind of mastery over one's senses is pratyahara, right? Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara. Fifth. Last three limbs of yoga are dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. Dharana means to be able to hold a visual in your mind even when you close your eyes. This is the purpose behind deity worship. Why do we do deity worship? When you look at these beautiful deities, and when you go out, for a moment you can stop and imagine or visualize the form of the deity in your mind. Right? Sometimes it is said that while chanting the Mahamantra, one should sit down and visualize the letters of the mantra while one is chanting. While visualizing the letters of the mantra, the mind will automatically get focused. Right? So that's dharana. Dhyan means meditation. Whatever you lose your mind in is meditation. So, for example, the stockbroker in Wall Street is focusing on his screen all day. You bring him some prasad, he will say, okay, later. Right? There is one-pointed meditation. Whatever we absorb ourselves in, that Jack says, I won't let you go, Rose. So Jack is focused on a certain form of meditation. Our meditation is to chant the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. What is the Mahamantra? I'll get to that in a second. The perfection of meditation is samadhi. And I will tell one Leela that explains samadhi, and then we will pause this class. Ready for a story? It's a story from Braj. One day there was a great yogi who was traveling across the length and breadth of India and came to this beautiful forest made of basil leaves, basil trees. And the fragrance was just awesome. It was a full moon night, about October, November. And he found this nice spot on which he sat down, began to relax. He remembered his vows of yamas and niyamas. And then he sat down, asana. He began to control his breath, pranayama. He began to withdraw his senses within, pratyahara. And then he began to meditate on the Paramatma in his heart, dharana, dhyan. And as he was about to enter samadhi, he got one tight kick on his leg. Woke up. And he saw the chun. Somebody wearing anklets. Some girl just ran away, kicking in the middle of the night. What is happening? And he got so angry that his samadhi was broken. He cursed. May whoever kicked me never experience samadhi in their life. Right? It is said that you shouldn't promise anything when you're happy and shouldn't utter things when you're angry. Right? So he said that out of anger, and then he went back to his meditation. Next morning, as the sun arose and the birds began to chirp, he gradually opened his eyes and he saw some young girl, gorgeous, sitting in front of him. And from last night, he remembered that, the color of that dress she was wearing actually matched up, So this girl kicked last night. So, he looked at her, was a controlled yogi, so he said, why are you here? And this girl said, welcome to Braj. What can we get for you? And this yogi asked the girl, why did you kick me last night? The girl said, I kicked you? I didn't kick you. And the yogi says, I'm pretty sure you did. I think you're running that direction. And you kicked me on the way. And she turned red and started blushing and said, I'm so sorry. I had no control. I was just running in the middle of the night. There is this black boy in our village who is a rascal, and in the middle of the night he starts playing the flute, and everybody wakes up thinking, who is making that music? And I just couldn't stay home. I had to go meet him. And I was running, and I didn't even notice you were here. And at that moment, the yogi realized that this girl is in samadhi just spontaneously out of her love that he was trying so hard to attain through his yoga process. This is a folk story from Vrindavan. That on the path of bhakti yoga, our love for Krishna brings us into a stage that Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is sahaja samadhi or spontaneous samadhi. When we actually learn to love Krishna, we don't have to artificially go through the external process, the mechanical process of yoga. The experience of samadhi just spontaneously happens in our love for Krishna, and it is the most natural form of samadhi because we as jivas are hardwired to love and be loved. When we love different things, we keep getting disappointed till we one day find our true love, that is the God, that is Krishna. Once that happens, then it doesn't go anywhere. And the Mahamantra, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, according to some of our acharyas like Vishwanath Chakravarti, Dhanacharya Goswami, and Jiva Goswami, represent the highest pinnacle that one can reach in samadhi. The names of the Lord at that stage, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is not just simply names. It is also, according to Rasikacharya, a divine conversation. Because you know what Sri Krishna calls Radha? Hare. And you know what she calls Krishna? Sometimes she calls him Ram. So the Hare Krishna Mahamantra he goes Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare, 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 Ram, Hare, Ram, 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 Hare, Hare, Hare. So in this way, there is eternal conversation going on between Radha and Krishna, and we become privileged to enter that by the grace of the spiritual master. That is why we sing every morning, Nikunja Juno Ratikil Chitta Yagalla Vinti Niravekshaniya. Drati Daksha, the spiritual master, is expert. Adivalla Harsha, it is very delightful. Vande Guru Sri Charanaru. Okay? So this surrendering to the spiritual master that Srila Prabhupada talks about in this purport, all the way till attaining the highest form of samadhi by chanting the holy names, is the essence of this section of Sankhya and Yoga. I want to present that and pause here for some questions. High five.
Oh, that was wonderful. I had a question on one of the other translations that we read, just the next one, 3:25:21. Because here he talks about like surrendering, associating with the sadhu, and the next one he talks about the qualities of a sadhu, which is very it's a famous verse, but it's also very touching to read that.
Tidikshava Karudika.
Yeah. Could you just expound a little bit on these qualities of a sadhu, how we can acquire them, or not just like how to identify them in a sadhu and associate with them?
I mean, see it. Somebody will badmouth us. The first symptom of a sadhu is that they do not take the word very seriously. Everybody else, okay, let me answer it by taking a step back. I'm still figuring it out on Instagram. Instagram is like a mystery to me. So I was in the back end yesterday and I started looking at all the categories. Health, beauty, right? And I tried to make a post and select a category that matches with something, spirituality, something. There was nothing in that category. It was only like You know what kind of food, where will you travel? So the categories of material nature, Sankhya, is already set by Instagram. So it basically I realized that okay, these are the categories that the whole world takes seriously, and there is nothing for spirituality. Sadhu means opposite of that. Right. So here in this world, you know, somebody says, okay, you are having a party and your friend is throwing a party and you're not invited. That's the end of your friendship. So sadhu doesn't, you know, like people get hurt in this world by these things. Sadhu doesn't. That is why tolerant, titikshava. And if you are an avadhuta, somebody can throw trash on you. Somebody can, you know, kick you, and you're like stupid people. Why you don't take it seriously? Like if a baby kicks you, do you kick the baby back? You don't. Sadhus are like that. They realize that those, you know, when you know, when seen in an ashram, I have lived in enough ashrams to know this, that there are those who wake up before everybody else, right? Then just by their noise, everybody else wakes up, right? I lived in Chowpatty ashram. There were 72 or 80 brahmacharis and only one hot water tap. So whoever is to get up earliest would, you know, at my first day in the ashram, I know there was just one hot water tap. I kept the bathroom closed. You know, when I opened, there was a long line of 70 brahmacharis and everybody was angry with me. You know, things happen, right? But but in an ashram, for example, those who wake up know who is awake and who is sleeping. But those who are asleep don't know who is asleep and who is awake. This is the symptom of liberation. Those who are liberated, they know who is liberated and who is not. Those who are liberated, I once asked Radhanath Maharaj, I think this was 2021, staying with him in Govardhan Eco Village. I was very upset with some devotee who did something really stupid. I still think he did something very stupid. I was very upset. And Maharaj was like observing me for days. And then he called me one day and said, Krishna Abhishek, you are liberated when you have nothing to prove to anybody. It's as simple as that. You don't have any axe to grind, no agenda, you have nothing to prove to anybody. See how light you will feel inside? And for a second, I actually dropped everything that was going on. You know, this person, okay, I don't take it seriously anymore. I just dropped it. It was such a light feeling. That's what liberation is like. When you're awake, you know. You don't take, you know, you don't second guess people's intentions. Right? You don't take their personal hard words seriously. You do not compete to showcase your success. In fact, being liberated, the difference between liberated and unliberated is celebrating another's success. Just one common thing. There are two ways to celebrate another's success. One way is somebody does the hard work, you take it, you claim it, and you celebrate their success. That is the material world. Spiritual world, when somebody is successful and you are so happy for them, you celebrate their success without any jealousy or envy in your heart. If you are able to celebrate another's success that way, then you're liberated. You're nothing to lose, right? And that is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities because you know no agenda, nothing to, no axe to grind. If they invite you, fine. If they don't invite you, fine. If you get to eat, fine. If you don't get to eat, fine. At the end of the day, Krishna is in charge, and Krishna is creating situations for our growth, so that everything that is barring us from Krishna gradually falls away. And when that happens, we will be, as yoga says, situated in our own true self. Was I able to answer that question? Okay, all right. We are out of time, or I don't know. No one says no to Advaita.
Thank you, Prabhu. No, thank you for the class, but there's something in verses that we read that it's creating this dishum. It's creating this dishum in my mind.
Oh, really?
Number 22, towards the end, it says that 22. It says that the sadhu loses like affection, any family or friendly acquaintances.
Yes, I read that. Such a sadhu engages in staunch devotional service to the Lord without deviation for the sake of the Lord. He renounces all other connections, such as family relationships and friendly acquaintances within the world.
At the same time, we see how sadhus, just read it recently, friendly disposed.
Look at Devahuti and Kardama Muni. She is mother, he is son. He is so nice to her. Right?
Yes.
And so how is it? The answer to that is found in one of the lines of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs. Krishnero সংসার করো ছাড়ি অনাচার জীবে দয়া কৃষ্ণ নাম সর্বধর্মসা অলসর শরণাগতি মানস দেহ গেহ যো কিছু মোর ওর পিলু তুয়া পদে নশ্বর সম্পদে বিপদে জীবনে মরণে দায় মম গেলা তুয়া ও পাদ বরণ. That means when I'm with this family, it is not my family. It is Krishna's family and I am a caretaker. These jivas have come into my life, gifted by Krishna, the form of husband, wife, children, parents, relatives. And pitana sasyat, sajanona sasyat, the fifth canto verse. One should not become a father, friend, teacher, relative, unless they are able to deliver. So a Vaishnava or a devotee, a yogi doesn't have any material family relations like that. They are beyond, they realize. And actually one time Srila Prabhupada came to Calcutta and he was meeting all of his old friends and everybody. He was so successful, everybody came to meet him. And Tamar Krishna Maharaj was there and he repeated this later. He told Prabhupada, it must be so wonderful to just hang out with all of your old friends and relatives. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is skin deep. I spent a lifetime with them, but that relation of hi, hello, feed me one time, is skin deep. I'm just using this to see if I can pull them out of their slumber, to liberate them. Okay? And so that is a living example of this. Prabhupada had family and friends and acquaintances in the world, but unless he was able to deliver them, right, liberate them, he said it was skin deep. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, well, family is skin deep unless treat them as Krishna's servants and Krishna has sent them for my purification, for me to serve them. That way I'm a servant of the servant. So when family is that way, then even though some family members may be misbehaving, we see that as an opportunity for growth rather than, this rascal keep one tight shop. Does that make sense? Thank you. Thank you very much.